it's supplementing the income of local farmers by up to 50%. That's huge. Additionally, these SNAP benefits may be used to purchase anything edible, including food-producing plants and seeds. So that's, when I saw that, my mind was so excited. I got really excited. And obviously this is a wonderful thing. However, the space to plant and grow these food-producing plants and seeds is mostly unavailable. So, Project Urbivore is dedicated to providing grow space for individuals who would like the opportunity to grow their own food, but are otherwise unable. So this applies to consumers of every income level. Recently, I attended a food and enterprise convention in New York, and I met Ray Figueroa, who is head of the New York City Community Garden Coalition. And he told a story of this immigrant grandmother who came up to him and thanked him for the work he was doing. He started a local garden CSA in the South Bronx, which, if you don't know, is one of the last kind of untouched environments in New York, and it's definitely very little income. They created this CSA program, and with all of the programs that are starting to work together, she was able to feed her family fresh, healthy food, which she had a difficult time doing until recently. When I think of this grow bed, I think of her. I think of people who would really like to have the opportunity, and it's easy to look from the outside and say, well, why don't you eat better? You should feed your family better, but it was unavailable. This starts to provide that opportunity. So it's for people like her that we're going to start establishing the Project Urbivore Scholarship Fund. For every grow bed purchased, a percentage will be set aside for the fund. And we also are offering the opportunity to purchase beds directly for the scholarship fund. And then the fund is going to go to purchase units for people who couldn't otherwise afford them. We believe that access to fresh, healthy food that positively affects the environment should be available to everyone. We also believe that education and awareness are an integral part of this global change toward sustainable food practices. So, for this reason, other beneficiaries of the scholarship fund might be horticulture therapy centers, schools, senior citizen homes, and rehab centers. I think a specific note about the education of children bears importance here. So, most kids that I know don't know where their food comes from. They just think it comes from a grocery store. They don't know what it looks like as it's growing. And they don't know what non-processed food looks like. So much less the desire to try it once it actually gets on their plate, right? However, if they're involved in the planting and the growing and the harvesting, they're super eager to try it. And we had that example with my nephews who were 2 and 4. They loved being out in the garden last year, and as soon as they would see something, they'd pick it and put it straight in their mouth. That would never have happened if we were like, eat this from your plate, you know? And they're already talking about it again. They've been talking about the garden all year. So those are the kind of eating habits that we need to encourage, and the way you do that is education. It's not just for adults, right? So imagine if you got one of these beds and put it in your child's bedroom. Imagine them waking up every day and getting to see the food that they planted growing. Imagine them being excited to eat the vegetables that they grew here. It's kind of totally different paradigm, total shift. It's really exciting to me. And maybe, just maybe, we might be creating another generation of much needed farmers. So, as this program develops, we will also be creating population herbivore. So that's going to be an online community dedicated to connecting and educating people on food sustainability and awareness. So for example, I might not have a window that's appropriate to put one of these in. Like they only go in windows that open up and down at this point. So if I have these kind of sliding windows, or maybe I just have no desire to grow vegetables, or I just know I have a black thumb. But I really want to participate somehow. Maybe you have the perfect space. Maybe you have, you know, all the desire in the world to grow some tomatoes. You're just really excited, but you just can't afford to purchase a unit. Well, Population Urbivore could connect us. I'll buy the unit, you grow the tomatoes, and then we share, right? So the variations could be endless, but it's the start. So we talked about the brokenness of the system and why change is necessary. We talked about applications for the grow bed and what we can do to promote urban agriculture and sustainable food practices, and we discussed who could benefit from these practices. Now I would like you to just stop and consider your own why. Why is this issue important to you? Or maybe it isn't. That's okay too. We know we aren't for everybody. But in the words of Bill Mollison, who is considered to be the father of permaculture, the greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production, even if on a small scale in our own gardens. If only 10% of us do this, there is enough for everyone. 10%. Hence the futility of revolutionaries who have no gardens, who depend on the very system they attack, who produce words and bullets, not food and shelter. This is for the 10%. And if you are the 10%, then we're for you. And if you'd like to become part of the 10%, we welcome you. That brings us to what? What is needed to propel this Project Urbivore forward? If you want to participate in the change, you can follow us on social media. Give you a little cheat sheet, right? Ready? You can talk about it to your friends and your family. You can purchase units for yourself or the scholarship fund, or both. And you can become a part of a sustainable food system by just becoming aware of your own food practices. I'll leave you with my own set of whys. And my whys are this. I have faith in the possibility for a better system. And I have hope that we will start taking steps together to create it. But most of all, I have love. I have love for this earth and all its inhabitants. Love is my motivation for this work, for this creative process, and for this change. Thank you for listening.
Questions?
No, I said it all. You did a good job.
How's the City of New York administration coming on board with this?
It's still a fledgling product, but I have met at the same convention. I actually spoke directly with the woman in charge of the entire food supply for New York surrounding areas, and I told her my idea, and she gave me her business card and said, call me. So we'll see. Very excited.
Production.
Yes.
Looks like a very small box and one very lonely tomato plant. What type of, you can't get a lot out of that thing, I wouldn't think. But, you know, tomatoes are a very short season.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to me that your production on that thing would be very limited toward the cost of the investment that you're going to make in, I don't want to say, you spend a lot of dollars for a few tomatoes.
The issue there is going to be one of those, that 10% thing.
Okay.
Some people have the means and really want to do it.
Sure.
I do know that obviously this is a new plant that's been transplanted a bunch of times, and he's not super happy. We're working on that. But I do know that with the soil and the yields, and my dad can speak to that a little bit more directly from everything that we've been working on, it's pretty high. And this is a small unit, and we could, in a large unit, could actually fit 2 plants in there. But maybe people don't want tomatoes. Maybe they want spinach or whatever. Anything, yeah, anything. And I don't know if you remember the slide, but that's actually correct planting with the spacing, and that was a lot of food. I looked at the list for myself, and it was a lot. Again, we're not for everybody, but people that want to have that opportunity, we want to give it to them. It's an interesting perspective for me, coming from here, where it's just so commonplace to walk outside and have all this space, and then to go home and there's literally no space at all. So to create that is really important for me. It's such a different perspective, you know, but I have told my friends and people that I met at the convention and, you know, just acquaintances that on the street when they say, what do you do? And I talked about it and they're like, I want one. Everyone gets excited because we're all kind of desperate for that, what we kind of take for granted here.
I guess my first impression of that would be, yeah, it's cute for a hobby, but if you take somebody that is really limited on the amount of money they have available
right.
to purchase that, will it justify, will your production justify the expense that they went through?
Right.
And what's your financial payback on the investment?
Right. That's where the scholarship fund comes into play. And for people that are very limited, it's a matter of people's choice to participate or not. And that's where programs like SNAP benefits come in, where they, instead of just buying food, they can buy, you know, the seeds and they can start to supplement, you know. So it's not going to fully replace at this point our food needs, you know, our grocery stores and farmers markets and the responsibility of farmers, but it just starts to create awareness and promoting a new way of thinking and doing things. We're not going to replace farmers by any means.
Yes, I want to speak to your question, please.
Okay, please.
Yes, we don't have land where we live right now to be able to have a good-sized garden.
Okay.
But we got, this was not available last year,
Okay.
but the biochar and the fertilizer were available to us. So we got our own, we have a deck, large deck, and we had, what, about three larger containers that we used. In one about his size, we had 2 tomato plants. Of course, there's just 2 of us living at home, but we furnished all our neighbors, our family at church, whatever, with tomatoes all summer.
Oh, wow.
This,
Okay.
we had one that had cucumber and squash in it together, and we never bought cucumber and squash all year. So it's a one-time investment.
So it does make financial sense.
Yes,
you
sir,
think?
it does. And I mean, that's just, you know, we didn't have this particular.
I was just going by first impression. I have no knowledge.
I know, yes,
Yeah.
I understand that. Sure.
Couple of comments. One, your lead in talking about climate change, having just come back from Nicaragua, I have seen firsthand I started going in 2008, and gone annually since. And it's amazing the amount of change there, far more dramatic than what we're seeing and sensing in this country. And it's creating havoc with agriculture there. You mentioned coffee and cacao. We had looked at the possibility of doing an investment in some cacao production and value added down there. The whole global change thing, the global warming, the climate change that I'm seeing there has really made us take a step back from seeing that as anything even close to a safe investment. You know, just seeing a total shift in when the rainy season is and when the dry season is. And so people are really scratching their heads and suffering. The other part of this that resonates with me is not only the highly urbanized areas, but I remember when we first came to Madisonville in 2000, we were looking at the possibility of purchasing a downtown building and actually living upstairs in one of the loft-style apartments. We chose not to do that. We had a little guy and chose not to do that because we wanted some earth. With this, though, it begins to, even in a town like this, to open up opportunities, much less the Chicagos, the LAs, the NYCs, to give people that connection to even a little bit of ground.
Yeah, horticulture therapy is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
It is.
Yes, to kind of add to that, and Bruce, what you were saying, even if it doesn't make total financial sense, even if you're not getting, you know, your investment back, man, there is nothing like, we have 4 raised beds in our backyard, and we plant as much as we can in there. And when I sit down and eat dinner and my whole salad is from my garden, I'm like, this is amazing, because I know where it came from, I know what I put in there.
Tastes better, doesn't
And
it?
it tastes so much better, and it, you know, it makes you feel good, and making someone feel good can go a long way. I mean, granted, it's probably not going to be for people who are on a much, you know, lower economic level, but someone might come along and say, hey, plant this and share your tomatoes with me, and, you know, that's the way to do it. Right?
That's where I was coming from with that financial sense type. It wasn't for the people in this room. It was for the people that they got $10 available to them, $20, whatever. But they're on fixed income, and if you can't show them where you're going to get $20 worth of tomatoes out of this thing for the investment, that's important to them.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
And
a dollar
it
is
possible.
more important to them than
Right.
it is to most of us.
Right, right.
Well, that's what the scholarship program's about.
Yeah, that's where it starts, is for the actual grow space, to provide the grow space. And then beyond that, I mean, and maybe you don't want to grow food, maybe you want to grow some roses because you don't like looking in your neighbor's window or something, you know, and that's totally fine too. We're still creating a better environment, you know, more beautiful environment, more peaceful environment, at least in my, you know, my book.
You might have a totally different crop choice in, say, Denver, for instance.
Somebody had to take it there. And now he leaves the room to leave me with that. Moving on.
So on the population Urbivore, is it just like a chat room kind of thing where, like you said, you can meet, or are there resources as well, like for what he's saying, you know, like, so when it's, you know, when it's like, why is this feasible? Are there resources to show like health facts about it? Like, hey, eating more vegetables, yes, it may be slightly expensive now, but when you no longer have high cholesterol, you're not paying for that medicine. When you no longer have this, like, your health benefits from eating these foods are going to get you there. Does the population Urbivore have resources like that in it as well?
That is the plan. That is the plan, to start connecting people in different industries to talk. And actually, there are a few people in this room who I wanted to connect. Hello, maybe? And to start those conversations. So it's a conversation starter. It's just a place to get people together. And actually, I'm hoping that we can even create an app that would basically connect you locally with people, kind of like a matchmaking service. And I know I know an actual app designer who has said, let me know when you're ready. So he's a really good one.
Because I really think that, I think that like establishing that why, because that's the biggest thing. Whenever you talk about eating healthy, like you can go buy a Snickers bar for $1. But when I ask you to go buy, you know, organic tomatoes, you're going to be looking at $3 for a little container. And they're both going to be gone, ideally, pretty much in the same serving. Like, you get 2 servings from your tomatoes, and even though no one eats the Snickers bar in 2 servings, technically it's supposed to be 2, right? But, I mean, and that's the thing, but your plant's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to get those tomatoes, but that's the hardest part, is seeing that really back why. So if you can establish that at the beginning, like, this is beyond beautiful, because your entire growing season, you know, like, yeah, you've got that forever. So yes, it is, but if I can use that same thing year after year,
Exactly.
shoot, the plant, you know, even if I get it as a starter, it's going to be what, $2 for an organic plant?
If you're on SNAP benefits, that
Yeah,
plant is free.
But that history is normally what ends up stopping people, where, because all you do is you see your dollar. Where is my dollar going to get me? I mean, it's totally sweet. So if you can see that backstory and know why we need to choose that, then I think that adds a lot of value to it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Just a couple of points, back to the economic piece. We've had those discussions. Yes, it's going to be a bit expensive. There are great returns all summer long. An indeterminate plant just keeps giving and giving, and you're trying to give it away, and then nobody wants it anymore because you gave so much away.
And then you can can and it'll last you through the winter season.
Yeah. Well, now it's start networking with people. In the state of New York, how many people live in New York City?
7 million.
Okay? Take some minuscule percentage of that and get people out there with 5 square feet out of each window and start adding that up, and you start looking at 2 tomato plants in a window, or squash or zucchini or whatever it is, and then you network those people through an app. You've got a phenomenal potential for food swapping and growing all this fresh stuff, green stuff in the garden. You take aerial shots of the city and you see green everywhere. Just a total switch. And the other thing is the window boxes is that piece. If you happen to have a rooftop, get the big one. It's a raised bed system instead. You on rollers or whatever else too. You get a lot more growth out of those.
Something I was thinking you should consider is checking into companion planting. For instance, you could put a basil plant in that same box with that tomato plant, and basil actually helps keep bugs off of the tomato plants. Plus, it tastes good with the tomato plants. So, and there's all kinds of companion plants. Herbal.
May or not be exactly accurate because I did it late last night, but
lots of herbal plants are great companion plants for.
Exactly. They'll increase your yields and make the food taste better, and without all the chemicals, they're going to help keep it free from insects. Another thing that is on the agenda, once we get this rolling, is offering a little bit of education in a booklet of companion planting, of techniques, of resources, where you can find this information, the best place to buy your seeds, maybe eventually actually creating a package for people. So, the turbo soil, if you have heard anything about it, there are different variations of soil in the pH. So we would select the proper pH based on what you're planning to plant. And we would offer the seeds, and we would tell you how to plant them, when to plant them, based on your zoning. So these are all on the agenda. First, we just got to get some awareness and some units out there. Yes, sir.
On that note, I'm interested in kind of your business plan and where you see this going, scalability, and how you're doing the marketing piece, and just what you see as the future from a business perspective.
How do we eat this elephant? So just getting the units made and getting the concept in physical real life has been interesting. It's happening. It's such a simple concept, but then that piece is the complicated one. Right now we're looking at the small unit comes with the soil. We said 150.
Ish.
Yeah, ish. And again, a piece of that goes into the scholarship fund. And the large one being 175 goes back into the scholarship fund. That provides you with what you need, and all you have to do is put it in your seeds or your plants. Again, I've talked with a few organizations. There's also a push right now in New York, and I forget the name of the organization off the top of my head, that is trying to set in place legislation to require any new construction or building to put in green rooftops, which is awesome because it's so much dead space. So I'm going to talk with her. Again, I'm going to talk with the woman in charge of all the food supply. I'm going to talk with the guy in charge of all the community gardens and those types of programs. It's just going to be a mass awareness campaign. Hey guys, this is available. Here's what we're doing. But the point is to keep it grassroots. Manufacturing, we're working with LEI to manufacture the unit, so that stays local. The soil that we're putting in is staying local. Maybe eventually, if we get burners in other places, we can start more locally sourcing those things as well. The whole point is that we're creating, you know, small industries for entrepreneurs. We were talking about it, maybe somebody has enough room in their home, their basement, and their windows that they want to make starter plants for people. Maybe they want to do it as a volunteer, maybe they want to do it as a business. But now we've provided that opportunity, which is big, because it's hard to find good starter plants. I've looked, and I was excited when I saw them at the farmer's market, but it did take a while to figure that out. Yes?
Do these come with the, like the, what was it you called?
The greenhouse option.
The greenhouse option, thank you.
As of now, they do not. The plan is eventually to start working with what people need and what the requests are. The needs are so individual. There's no regular windows in New York especially, and that's where we're really starting out. But I'm sure eventually there will be all those options, from, you know, cages to prevent squirrels and birds from being in there, and greenhouse options and all of that.
We still have the original one we showed for a starter opportunity, but
Yeah.
I wanted to make one more point too, the price, you know, and the economic sense of this. We're talking New Yorkers are paying $2,000 a month for rent, okay?
Oh, more than that.
I was gonna say,
I'm talking-
pretty much a minimum,
Yeah, and this is nothing for them to be
Yeah.
able to have a green view if nothing else, so.
Yeah, this is huge.
I just think that the biggest marketing piece to this, in my opinion, is that it's just cool. And that you are giving somebody an opportunity to do something that they cannot currently do. And I think that a lot of people spend a lot of money and unjustified or obscene or whatever to be cool. I think there's a cool factor to this, and I think that people like to see growth, whether it's a cheetah pet or a tomato plant or whatever. I think that there is something that's fascinating about it, and I think that you're giving someone an option to do something that they currently can't do. And if it's roses or tomatoes, you know, being able to have that almost conversation starter, you know, for people in social settings with, you know, where does this tomato come from, or what's that on your window seal or your deck or whatever, I think is really cool. And I think also from a mission standpoint, you know, just like our church works with a group called People Care Learning who are in Cambodia, and I have to imagine that the soil that they are using to plant their gardens doesn't have the nutrients that the turbocharged soil that you guys have, and to be able to offer areas that the ground, whether it's from pollution or whatever, has been tainted, the ability to supercharge their growth, I think is awesome. So I think the possibilities are really endless as far as what this can do.
And just to speak on that really quickly, I also do work just with LEI and Turbo Organics and all of that. This is slightly separate, but also a joint venture. Our focus in LEI is to create, as I mentioned, these local industries. So, you know, in the future, it would be a vision of mine, as this is part of what I do for LEI, to work with organizations such as the one you mentioned, to fundraise, to maybe figure out what locally sourced biomass is available, and how can we get them creating their own usable products from the waste, so that we maybe can stop leaching some toxins into the ground and start turning it around, and stimulating their economy, as well as, you know, providing adequate nutrition and jobs and everything else. So it's across the board with what we're doing, and this is very specific, but it is very focused on that. And yes, it's cool, it's trendy, we like it.
Yeah, speaking of cool and trendy, this kind of goes along with that. Do you have you looked into crowdfunding or anything to help pay for the boxes for the other people?
Yep, so going back to your question from before, that is definitely on the horizon to do some kind of crowdfunding ventures. Just
I love those things. And
They're
I'll just,
so fun,
yeah,
right?
give me money because this is cool. Yeah,
Right.
same thing. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I feel like a lot of people can get behind because they can recognize themselves. They recognize an application for their child's bedroom or for their grandmother's retirement home window, or for a missions venture internationally. People are going to see the applications. So yeah, we are definitely going to provide that. And the benefit of being in New York is that I have some really cool people, Broadway stars, and all of that I can get behind to maybe get them participating to help with that. So that's exciting for me too. Yeah.
Is that 10% a number you feel like is available, or just that can be had, or are we looking at 5% when we're talking about just like the city of New York, 7 million people, we get 10%, that's 700,000 people. And if each one of them buys 2 of these things, and we got 116 acres, of land, but is 10% a reasonable figure that you expect to get in New York? Or from what you've been finding out, is it 3% or 4%?
To be honest, at this point, I'm just moving forward. I have yet to set projections. As far as those numbers, I'm still concerned with getting everything developed. I think it's completely reasonable to think that there are that many people that have this desire. I absolutely feel that that's reasonable. And I think that our local government is behind these ideas. So I think that if we can put the information in the right hands, and if we can get people excited, that it's absolutely a possibility. I just answered the question for myself even just now. There you go. On how that happens. Any more questions?
I don't know if the guy that was just talking, the one that had to leave, but he said this, but I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm sure you've had this light bulb, but I was like, a Girl Scout troop or whatever in Kentucky as a project could raise money to buy a garden for a kid's window in New York. I love it. I just absolutely love that, to know that some little kid that, can't get to the ground can actually do this. And
so that's part of Population Urbivore, but just also the general scholarship fund. So what we're going to try to do is post our projects. Here's what we're working on getting these for now. Here's what we're working for now. And keep people updated, so that's why social media follow and all of that is important. We will have blog things that will be keeping people updated as well, email lists, all that jazz. So you can, stay updated and then know where your money is going to go, where these are going to go. But we will also try to connect individually eventually once we get the manpower behind the organization. Go ahead.
Just wanted to pick up on one thing that I think I heard you kind of drop into an earlier comment. You've talked a lot about the scholarship fund, which is essentially a little bit like people who do Kiva loans and things like that to use your money to do good elsewhere. I think I heard you say also, though, that a portion of
every sale,
the profit from
yes.
every sale goes into that.
Yes.
There's so much of a movement for companies of all sizes to move in the direction of being a part of doing good, and not only the profit motive. I don't apologize for profit motive at all in my companies, but to also be a part of social conscience and doing good, I think is really gaining traction. That, I'm sure, I would think would be a big part also of your whole marketing effort, your whole presentation out there, that, yeah, we're not just asking other people to do this, we're doing it as well as a company.
Yes. Yes, that's definitely a portion. And once we solidify the costs, we'll be able to put the exact percentage and the exact number out there to make people aware of what their purchase would be doing. Because let's be honest, if I have the choice for me to buy something that's solely going to the company or that's going to give back, I'm going to choose the thing that's going to give back. And I think so many more people now are becoming aware of that idea, and like you said, more companies are doing that.
Even if they have to pay a little more. There's a
Yep.
lot of people
Yep,
that find that attractive.
yep, there are, and especially as my dad mentioned, in New York where we're paying so much for everything, this is a drop in the bucket, especially because our food prices are ridiculously high. Ridiculously high. So anything that allows me the convenience and, you know, the cool factor and the, you know, perpetual return is going to be awesome in my book. Is he? Yeah. Did I saw a no scratch on this. All right. Are there no more questions? Take it away.
Okay. Awesome presentation, thank you. Did you ask it, I think you asked at the beginning, yeah, how many new people that were here? Come back, bring people with you. As you know of other entrepreneurs, other ideas for businesses that have started, make us aware of them, make those folks aware of 1 Million Cups. I was proud to wear a 1 Million Cups t-shirt when I was in Nicaragua and posted that on social media. I also, another day, wore a Social Coaster t-shirt, and Jonathan Burton, the founder of that, commented on that when he saw it online when I was in Nicaragua. So we need to keep getting that word out there in Madisonville and Hopkins County and frankly all over the world. So thanks for being here. Yes, Barbara.
If you didn't sign in on your way in, could you sign in on your way out, please?
And thank you for today's great presentation.
Oh, God.